Today, we become legends.
Some gods in Smite are AA cancelling machines, while others do their damage in other ways. Today we're going to count down the top 10 AA cancelling gods in Smite. Did you know almost 70% of people watching right now aren't even part of the Nay Nation? Well, if you're in that camp, we don't bite. Why not subscribe so you never miss a video? So of course, for those wondering what's going on here, AA cancelling in Smite is a technique where you cancel the animation of a basic attack during its post frames by using an ability. Attacks in Smite have wind-up frames, the time before the attack hits and the damage is done, active frames, the time where your hitbox is up and you can damage enemies with that ability, then post frames, which is laggy animation time after the attack has already connected, the damage has been done, but before you can begin your next action. You can cast most abilities at any time during a basic attack animation to cancel it. The faster you cast an ability after hitting, the more post frames you shave off and the more DPS you can put out as a whole. This can also be done in reverse by cancelling the post frames of an ability by basic attacking, but this is far less common. An AA cancel also resets any attack chain your character is on. This can be a benefit or a drawback depending on the situation, but in general this is a benefit. Take Loki for example, his hit chain goes 1, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 1.5 damage and swing time. So the middle hits are half damage but twice as fast. Loki loves AA cancelling because instead of hitting an enemy for 1 times damage, then 0.53 times, he can hit someone, then AA cancel his chain to reset and then go back to the start and hit them with 1 times damage again, rather than waiting on the 0.5s. Also, a quick note that this will be mostly physical characters on this list, since magical basic attacks scale with less power than physical ones, and most magical characters in Smite are burst mages or tanky guardians, not AA cancellers. So kicking off the list, we have a pretty interesting application of AA cancels, and that's Ares. Now hear me out, I know Ares isn't exactly the shining example you think of for AA cancelling, but his chain, auto, chain, auto, chain, auto, flames allows for 3 excellent AA cancels in a row. Weaving in basic attacks in between chains is one of the first things a good Ares player learns, and it's the only reason he's at the bottom of the list is because the actual basic attacks themselves hit like BBs since he's a guardian. Still though, impressive to AA cancel 3 times in such a short period of time, which is why I thought Ares deserved a spot on the list, even if it is only at number 15. Coming in at number 14, we have another fairly unique pick, and that's Olaf. Now, as I'm sure you all know, Olaf is only here for his axe combos. After hitting an axe, Olaf can guarantee not only his 3 and his 1 in bow stands, but also an auto attack after the axe, then another one after the 3. Olaf is still low on this list though because the actual cancels aren't that great, it's more so just extra damage in a combo than truly AA cancelling like a pro. Also, the reason he's above Ares is because his basic attacks actually do good damage, so even 2 bad ones from Olaf do way more than 3 great ones from Ares. The big baby takes the number 13 spot with his solid and hard hitting AA cancels. Being an auto-attacking character already, Fermana's basic attacks obviously hit hard, and his main cancels on his 1 and 2 are great in terms of time saved. You can pretty much connect the dash knock up on Fermana and immediately cancel into a basic attack for bonus damage, like it's so fast. Plus the cancel on his 2 is pretty fast as well. Not to mention, he's probably applying some kind of item effect on you with those basic attacks as well, like a Frostbound Hammer or a Hasten Katana or something like that, just a well-deserved number 13 spot. We're going to the moon with number 12, that's right, it's Awelix. Now Awelix is a weird one that's similar to Ula in that most of her strength comes from weaving in basic attacks into her combos as guaranteed damage rather than AA cancelling necessarily for a time save. Rather than AA cancelling for a time save, she's AA cancelling for a damage increase. She's also the first god on the list to have an actual attack chain. Hers goes 1, 0.75, 1.25, so it's useful to AA cancel the first hit to reset her chain back to full damage instead of the 0.75 times damage on the next hit. A cancel I really like on Awelix is actually using her ult. If you knock up from close range, you can easily slide in a basic attack on the airborne enemy before pulling them back down with your ult for more damage. Our number 11 spot is Mercury, who doesn't actually have great AA cancels in terms of time and frame data, but any extra basic attack you can squeeze out with Mercury is going to hit like a truck, so I thought it deserved a spot on this list. His main cancel is after ulting, you basic attack, then cancel into dash to keep them CC locked, but as I said, it's not a great cancel, it's just that even 1 extra basic attack is like 600 damage on Mercury, so I felt he needed to be included somewhere on the list. So the number 10 spot is Hunbat, who in my opinion has one of the best AA cancels in the game in terms of time saved, and that's using his 3. Since the thrown monkey has 2 parts of the ability, you can actually AA cancel with both. You can basic attack, throw the monkey, basic attack again, then teleport to the monkey, which yes, does reset your attack chain again and counts as an AA cancel. Hunbat shares his attack chain with Awelix and that he's 1, 0.75, 1.25 damage and swing time, so cancelling the 0.75 to return to the 1.0 is an extra bonus on Hunbat that bumped him up the list slightly. Also, his passive literally needs you to AA cancel, so there's that too, it's just a mini Hydra's Lament. Our second warrior of the list takes the number 9 spot, and that's Achilles. So basically all of Achilles' basic abilities work great for AA cancelling. His 1 is solid, his 2 is actually surprisingly good, and much like Hunbat's, his 3 is a 2-part ability where you can AA cancel with both parts. While Achilles has no other synergy and a standard 1-1-1 basic attack chain, I feel his actual cancels are really great in terms of frame data, and he has lots of them, hence he's placing a little higher than something like Hunbat's, who relies basically on one single cancel. Coming in at number 8 we have Cali. Now before you go down to the comments to rage that Cali is a hold left click character, not an AA canceller, I would argue she can be both. She has a great chain for it, being 1, 0.5, 0.5, so she wants to reset to the 1 chain. Her basic attacks come out fast but have lots of post frames, so cancelling those saves her tons of time compared to the average character, and everything but her 1 works really good as an AA cancel. Her ultimate especially can burst people way harder than they think, since it's legitimately one of, if not the best AA cancel in the entire game. Not only does it come out insanely fast, allowing for good cancels, but it also has very low end lag, meaning you can basic attack again very quickly after ulting. This leads to basically 2 auto attacks landing at near the same time, which leads to way more burst damage than people expect from a Cali. Osiris has returned from the afterlife for the number 7 spot on the list. So Osiris mostly has 3 things going for him in this regard: a very interesting attack chain and 2 great AA cancel abilities. Osiris' chain is somewhat strange for cancelling, since it goes 0.51, 0.51. You actually don't cancel on the first hit with Osiris, which is unusual. It's actually better to do the 0.5 hit, then the 1, then cancel before the second 0.5 and repeat. This doesn't actually increase damage like many others, but prevents reducing damage, since always cancelling after the 0.5 means you're just doing half basic attack damage always, which sucks. Doing this with 2 basic attacks remedies this. As far as abilities go, his 1 and 3 are both great for AA cancelling, with his 1 especially being really nice because of its absurdly low cooldown of 6 seconds base. As for his 3, it just has a very fast animation with low end lag and works really well. Oh, how the mighty have fallen with number 6, that being Loki. Before the rework, Loki was definitely top 3 best AA cancellers in the game, if not just outright the best. The rework did change a lot of things for him though, and one of those was way less burst damage, which resulted in some of his AA cancelling prowess being stripped away. Don't get me wrong, his chain is still great for it, being 1, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 1.5. Cancelling this chain gives you access to repeated 100% damage swings rather than taking the 350% hits in a row, much like earlier chains. Vanish and his 2 still work similar and really great for AA cancelling, but his 3 and ult were gutted for it. They both have way longer animations as part of the effort to reduce Loki's burst damage in the rework to make him less frustrating. This had the side effects of mostly ruining these abilities for AA cancelling. So yeah, pre-rework Loki is arguably number 1 on this list, but after the rework he does drop significantly, out of the top 5 in fact. Breaking into the top 5 though, we have a real OG, and that's Thanatos. We all know how hard Death Scythe hits. Well, pretty much add a free basic attack on top of that, since Scythe is really great for AA cancelling, and that's the reason Thanatos is on this list. And while his only other real AA cancel is Soul Reap, which isn't great, his chain works well for it, being 1, 0.75, 1.5, which as I'm sure you know by now, if the first hit is big damage and the second hit is less, it's usually better to cancel that chain if possible. Coming in at number 4, we have the turtle canceller himself, Erlangchen. So despite his mediocre AA cancelling chain of 0.75, 0.75, 0.75, 1.1, 0.9. Also a very interesting chain by the way. His other synergies with AA cancelling remedy this and boost him up the list. Namely his dog, his 1 and his 3. So I'm sure if you watch my channel regularly, you'll be aware of how strong Erlang's turtle cancel is. Where you basic attack, cancel into turtle, immediately unturtle once the knockup lands, then get more basic attacks on the airborne enemy before they hit the ground. It's a combo that does way more burst damage than people expect, and it's a large part of the reason why Erlang is so strong in most metas. But he also has 2 basic attack damage buffs in his passive dog and his active 1. With both of these in consideration, each AA cancel is just worth so much more on Erlang in terms of damage than it is on most other characters. Combine that with arguably the single best AA cancel in the game since Loki's rework, and you have a very scary AA cancelling turtle machine. Kicking off the top 3, we have Nemesis, a decent chain of 1, 1, 0.75, 1.25 that technically can be cancelled after 1 or 2 hits, since both the first ones are 1.0s, but usually you just do cancel after 1 since it's faster. If you're using an entire second basic attack rather than a cancelled one, you're doing less DPS. But if you're more concerned about maximum damage output overall and not DPS or burst, you could cancel after 2 basic attacks for more overall damage. Nem's main cancels are her shield, 2 and dash. The shield is by far one of the best cancels there is, probably on par with turtle cancel from Erlang actually. Since it comes out so fast and has very little animation time due to it being a shield, it feels bad if shields don't come out basically instantly because you'll just die, which is a nice benefit for Nem in terms of AA cancelling. Her 2 is very bog standard, similar quality to Death Scythe in terms of AA cancelling, but of course less damage. Her dash provides 2 AA cancels in one, which as we discussed with Achilles is very strong, so I feel like all these small factors rather than one big one is why Nem is so far up on the list for me. Taking the penultimate spot on the list, we have arguably the closest god to having a true inescapable combo in Smite, and that's Thor. So Thor's general AA cancels are just passable. His chain is standard, so 1-1-1, no improvement there, but his abilities are decent for cancelling basic attacks. However, Thor's combos are where he really shines. Take his full ultimate combo for example. After landing an ult, Thor gets a basic attack, throw the hammer, basic attack again, stun, hammer hits on the return, basic attack again, then 3 to finish. This is entirely guaranteed unless the enemy cleanses the CC or has some kind of DR stack or CCR from beforehand. So this full combo provides 3 inescapable AA cancels, and Thor's basic attacks definitely hit very hard, especially if you're running Hydras. And it's often a 100-0 combo or close to it if Thor is doing really well. I just felt like Thor's entire combo is way more impressive than just standard AA cancels that were further down this list, and so I think number 2 is fair for him. But before we get into the number 1 spot, I have a few honourable mentions that didn't quite make the list. Ratatoska, who AA cancels decently well with most of his abilities, but has a very long startup animation on his basic attacks that makes them really not great for it. Ymir, for obvious reasons, his passive makes him deal double basic attack damage, so each cancel is worth twice as much. However, his cancels suck and don't do much damage in the first place, so I didn't want him on the actual list. Geb, who has some legitimately like one of the best AA cancels in the entire game and an unavoidable combo just like Thor. Yeah, I'm not memeing, Geb's AA cancels are legit broken. The only reason he's not actually good with them is because he deals very little damage with basics. And finally, Hercules, who AA cancels pretty nicely in his combo, but ultimately I didn't feel like it was strong enough to make the list. And finally, we've made it to number 1. The best AA canceller in all of Smite, in my opinion, is Susano. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of you noticed he was nowhere to be found on the list and figured out he'd be number 1. Susano is basically just the god of AA cancelling. It's as if he was made to be the best at it. Of course, there's his one which is literally 3 AA cancels in one like I've discussed before. That's pretty rare and definitely a strong point of Susano in terms of AA cancelling. But there's also his 3 which is like Hunbat's monkey from earlier and it provides 2 AA cancels in one. One on throwing the storm, the other on teleporting to the storm. Susano also has great basic attack animations for cancelling. The hitbox comes out super fast with a very small windup, but a long post animation after you've already dealt the damage. This is perfect since you get that hit out fast, you cancel the long animation afterwards because you don't need it and it saves tons of time. To be honest, I think most of you were expecting Susano to be here anyway, and I won't go on too long. Just know that the god is basically the best AA canceller we've ever had aside from pre-rework Loki. But that's it for the list. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and if you did, then don't forget to drop a like before you leave, and I will catch you guys in another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.